Hi, everybody. This is Laddie Legasis, and this is my Leg Day Games Journal and Development Journal. And right now, I'm working on. Actually, I haven't worked on a game in a while, so I was thinking for a long time what I should do first, and I decided to make something kind of like a scrolling shooter. And I thought fun idea might be to do something with the atom in a bloodstream. So right now I'm putting together what's going to be the bloodstream, starting with gradient for the background, because solid color might look too, I don't know, plain, I guess. So I'm gonna start with a gradient, like a red gradient, and along the sides, on the top and the bottom, I should say, actually, I'm going to make a cell wall to go with it. And actually, prior to working on this on Construct 3, I made a bunch of different video game assets. I used Animate to do that. It's the same program I actually use for some of the animations that I make on my channel, and it's really great for also making uh, just simple sprites for a video game. Um, First, I really want to organize everything. Actually, when I revisited my first game that I made, my first Teen Titans Go fan game, uh, I had a hard time with that. Everything was just not organized very well. I had a confusing time revisiting that old project to make it controller compatible. And so I sort of learned a lot from that first project that I did. And I just really want everything to be categorized and have the proper names and files and everything. Um, so even layers, I want to make sure I have everything organized and with a name. So for the cell wall, I went with just simple, like globular looking blobs. Um, Actually, this is gonna be. I'm imagining maybe like Robin's bloodstream. So I just like pink cell wall for that. If I decide to do variants or different stages, like if you're in Starfire's bloodstream or Raven's bloodstream, like the color palette might be different. So basically, what I'm doing now, setting up a like sort of a base for everything. I could then just copy and paste, and then just use color swap. So Robin, since he's just a regular human, he'd have what you might expect to find, cells and red blood and all that. And for Raven, I might make the cells like grayish, or for Starfire, they'd be orange. Beast Boy green, Um, Cyborg would probably have some metal components in there, and everything is actually going to be just on one single screen, like in a lot of horizontal shooters. Um, so it's one screen, but there's going to be the illusion of movement because the cells are just going to keep moving to the left. And actually, on Construct 3, I could give them the wrap behavior. That's with a W. And what it lets them do is wrap around the layout. So basically, when they reach one end of the layout, they're going to appear on the other end. So it's just going to be one continuous sort of stream of these blood cells passing by. Um, and if you've played like the most basic kind of horizontal shooter, like like the space shooters in a spacecraft, they give you the illusion of movement through stars in the sky. And in this case, it's just going to be blobby little cells. And and like I said, it's been a while since I've done anything in Construct, so excuse me if I have to slow things down a little here and there. There we go. There's like a little gap right there from the wrap, so I might have to bunch the cells up closer, or maybe I'll add an extra cell in there so that it moves more fluidly. Actually, when I started making internet content, the first thing I did was uh, just basically working on games. I made like pixel art. Um, that was the original plan. But as I got more interested in Teen Titans Go series, I got more interested in making fan animations, and uh, did that for the better part of a year, I'd say. And I got like lots of different ideas from people following me on DeviantArt mostly, and I really liked working with a lot of those ideas. Um, but yeah, earlier this year, I wanted to get back into making games really quick, uh, really soon. That was like always probably one of my biggest passions. Um, and now, since I've been working with making like vector art on Animate, it looks like a lot smoother and a lot cleaner. So I'm hoping to make something that you guys might really enjoy. Um, Stuff with DC characters, my favorite characters. Stuff especially with Teen Titans Go. Though some of my friends have also suggested, oh, I should also try uh, doing stuff with like DC superhero girls, because I like that show too, and just other stuff. Um, I should try making stuff with the original Teen Titans Go, the original Teen Titans series on Cartoon Network. Uh, but yeah, I'll definitely consider anything with DC. Doesn't really matter what universe or what media, because DC is where it's at for me. And I'm not saying I'm like some kind of huge fanboy. There's plenty of DC stuff that makes me cringe. Um, I just love the characters. I love stories with particular characters, and I like to try and tell my own stories, which is what I certainly try to do with a lot of my animations. And with video games, you could also tell your own stories. All right, so the illusion of movement is coming along nicely so far. Starting to look more like a blood vessel, or someplace you'd be traveling in the body. Um, but I want to add more details to it, because especially all that red looks just like nothing really, just plain and boring. So since it's going to be a bloodstream, I want to add a few blood cells like flying by. Um, yeah, adds more detail to it, makes it look nicer, helps with the illusion. And I don't know how some people feel out there. Like when I started doing this kind of stuff, like seeing how video games are made or how cartoons are made, like a little bit of the magic. Um, it sort of goes, you know, uh, a little bit of it when you know, like what goes behind it. Uh, when it feels more like a stage than like an actual little world, you know. But um, I enjoy working with this stuff. It's a fun challenge, and um, when people comment on it and say they enjoy it or they have ideas that they want to share, it makes it worthwhile. All right, so one cell so far, and I'm gonna make another. I want to have like a variant for cells, like one that doesn't move and one that like rotates, as you can see. Woo, rotate. Uh, just to add some variety, some extra details to it, and just like the cell walls that I have on the top and the bottom, I'm going to also give those the wrap property so that as they go to one end of the layout, they'll appear again on the other end of the layout. And I might actually also want to give them random behaviors, just so it's not like a stream without with just like a very boring pattern. Like they'll disappear on one end, and then when they appear on the other end, they wouldn't be in the same place. They'd be in a different y coordinate, so that it's more randomized. It's not something that a plain pattern that you could easily spot and sort of becomes monotonous. Don't want that. I want anyone playing the game to really feel like they're floating around in a bloodstream. All right. And probably after I finish with the bloodstream, I'll get started on the character that I had in mind to be traveling around in the bloodstream. And that's, of course, got to be the Atom. Pretty cool superhero. Um, haven't done anything with the Atom before, but people have suggested him. Uh, I'm not sure if it's because they like the Atom on Teen Titans Go. The voice for him is Patton Oswalt, and that guy is hilarious. And even though the joke usually with him on the show is that he gets stepped on or squished, uh, have also gotten suggestions of him being eaten by someone like Giganta, which I have animated before. And I do get a lot of suggestions. Oh, she should eat someone, which I don't think she has any natural cannibalistic tendencies, even though she is a giant most of the time. I think she did eat the atom in one comic. I'd have to reread it, but I think she might have been under some kind of crazy influence when she did that. So, all right. So that's how the bloodstream's looking so far. Looking better. But it looks like the blood cells are kind of packed together, which actually wouldn't be healthy for someone in real life. You get what do you call it? Like a blood clot. Could be dangerous. So I'll separate them out a little bit more so they're not all packed together. And actually, I also want to change up the speed that the cells are going in. Um, slow it down a little bit so it's more like a heartbeat, matches the pulse, you know. Yeah, that's looking better for the cells, the cell walls, but I still want to change up the pattern for the blood cells. Like I said, just so that um, we don't have just big solid red color. It's just, yeah, like this looks much better. We have variety with the speed. Some of the cells zoom past. Some of the cells have a different opacity. Is that opacity? Some of them are more see through. Again, to help with the illusion of making this seem more like you're inside of somebody's blood vessel. Cartoony blood vessel, but a blood vessel nonetheless. So, let's see what next. What next? Definitely want to keep. One thing that you'll know when you're working on video games or have to learn is that a lot of it is like trial and error stuff, like a lot. It's a lot of typing in numbers and seeing if it works the way you want it to work, if it looks good, tweaking it a little bit here and there, adding a little building on top of what you start with. And again, when it looks the way you imagined it after 10 tries, 20 tries, it's more rewarding. And that's something I always find when I'm working on something like this. It's rewarding when you get it right. No matter how many attempts it takes, it can get frustrating, but rewarding at the end. All right, now this is the Atom assets that I made. And if you're not familiar with the thing he's writing on, I think in the comics it's called a bang stick. And this is actually what it's it's actually not the Atom from Teen Titans Go. That one's Ray Palmer. This is Ryan Cho, I believe. Ryan Cho. Um, he's one of the Atoms, I believe, after Ray Palmer, and something that differentiates himself from the other Atoms is his method of traveling, which is on that bang stick. Let's see, made him tiny, so he's a tiny little guy floating around in a bloodstream, looking much better. All right. So for the Atom, I had a hard time thinking of what kind of weapon he would use. I think in most of the comics, he kind of has proportional strength. Like even if he's tiny and he punches you, it's like if a full grown man punched you. Um, and I was looking at some of his moves in the Injustice games, and like one of his specials, it looks like he just takes two particles and smashes them together and releases energy. So he does that kind of stuff. Um, I didn't want to just make it a laser weapon for him because then it would be just too plain. Uh, and I was looking through a bunch of cover art of the Atom, and every once in a while, you see him with the little like energy orbitals flying around him to make him look like an atom, or how people speculate an atom looks like. So I made the little atom orbits, and I'm gonna make like these little particles that are going to be orbiting around him. And my plan for that is like he'll have three orbiting around him. So that's like three for his ammunition that he could use and throw at enemies. Um, got three colors, red, blue, and purple. I'm not sure if I'd make each one like have a special ability or if he has to find more ammo to replenish, or if it should just replenish automatically. But I'll definitely have him have a maximum of three shots. And not sure if it should just be like a simple impact or like more of an explosion when they hit. But for now, I just think this would be a really cool looking visual, like better than just him flying around and shooting like little laser beams. I want him to make it look more like something unique to the Atom. I'll admit I haven't read a lot of the comics about the Atom. Mostly see him on shows or cartoons, especially. Seems like a pretty neat power to have. Although on Teen Titans Go, people with shrinking abilities are usually deemed useless, even compared to someone like Robin who has just karate powers, martial arts powers. Shrinking is, especially if you're fighting someone like Darkseid, not the go-to kind of power. Better for when you have to fight the enemy from within, that kind of stuff. Or stealth, I guess. Or, like in this case, for going into the bloodstream and fighting against potentially deadly viruses or disease. One thing I do remember about the Atom, and it was this was on a kids show or on Cartoon Network at least. One episode, they were fighting some aliens from space, and Wonder Woman had to take him to, I guess it was the heart of the aliens or the core or whatever you want to call it, the center, the central hub. And she was carrying him on hand, in her hand. But then she needed to use both her hands to fight, to like use her lasso, because between them and the goal was like all these aliens. So she ends up putting the Atom in her cleavage, which oh, it was such a funny visual to see that. Um, and his expression was just like, "Yep, this is a typical day for me." Oh my gosh! Still can't believe that was on Cartoon Network and not like Adult Swim. Funny stuff. All right, so I'm just putting a simple little event into the particles so that for half their animation loop, they're going to be at the front layer, so going over the Atom, and then for the other half, they're going to be going behind him. Again, just an extra little detail for the Atom. And it looks nice. All right. So, besides that, um, I have to program it so that when the atom moves, when I actually start working on his movements, uh, the atom effect that I have and the particles are going to move with him. Because right now these are all separate little details. Um, and when the atom starts moving around, I'm going to give him a direction movement. I have to make it so that that everything moves along with him. Um, so, and this is a hard thing because I want all of them to be on the same layer. Um, so it's hard to select the one that I want because everything's sort of overlapping on each other. So I have to move these around, and so I could click on the atom like I want to. Sorry, that was my computer. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe while I'm working on this, I'll read more about the atom in comics. Because so far, most of what I know from uh, Ray Palmer, the one on Teen Titans Go, is one of his storylines. He ends up with some tiny aliens, I think living in the Amazon, some kind of a forest, like this entire little civilization of aliens that is using frogs like for transportation and living among the trees. Um, and that Adam, he fights with like a sword and a shield, I think, like a gladiator. Um, and then the Adam after him, this one, Ryan Cho. I think it's pronounced Cho. I think he's more like more of a brilliant scientist than Ray Palmer was. I think. Usually when I see him like depicted in media, he's usually either really nerdy or really brilliant, or like just really doesn't want to do the superhero thing. Like he has a shrinking suit for more practical uses. All right, so I have my atom moving around, but my effects for him aren't moving. So I'm gonna have to give them the pin behavior. It's like thumbtack from what I remember. Yes, and give them that property. Basically, what I'm going to do is the orbiting atom effect. I'm gonna pin to the atom, and then the particles I'm going to pin to the orbiting effect. And then whenever atom moves around, then those effects are going to follow him around. And yeah, this is a little bit different from some hero sprites. Some hero sprites is just a single sprite, but for this one, because I want different animations for it, different effects for it, it's actually four sprites that are moving at the same time. All right. And as you can see, I've been categorizing everything. So I have for my event programming one section for background elements, one section for the atoms effects, and then I'm going to make a section just for the atoms controls and his animations. Right now he just has a single animation for when he's moving, but I'll also need an animation for when he attacks, when he launches one of his particles. And I'll try and think of an interesting animation for when he's out of energy or for when he's hit. Uh, Maybe he'll just crash into the cell wall below or explode. Like for my first game, I know for each of my Titans, I had uh, like a different little death animation, and some of them were a little bit more. What would be a good word? Gruesome than the others. Some of them were just pretty simple, like just falling over. I know Cyborg, I had him exploding into like separate little pieces. And for Beast Boy, I think he like has a heart attack, and then his ghost flies up, which is actually some kind of the stuff you'd see on the show. So, all right, let's see. So, sorry, this is taking long. It takes a while to program everything to be pinned to everything else, but let's see. I'm really loving Construct 3, by the way. This is like just so much more streamlined and simple to use and easy to organize. So it's been nice for someone like me, again, who hasn't done any video game stuff, made any video games in like over a year. Um, Originally, I was using Construct 2, which was pretty decent, and Construct 3 is just much more smoother and easier to use. There we go. All right, so now he's moving and everything's following him in the bloodstream. Do you bleed? Say what you will about that line, how weird it is, but I don't know. It just sort of become one of those weird, iconic things. It's usually the weirdest superhero stuff that sort of um, just stands the test of time. Like all the weird stuff that happened in the original Superman movies and some of the weirder stuff from Adam West's depiction of Batman. And definitely Batman's gravelly voice, like extra gravelly voice. You bleed. I mean, watching it in the movie theater when they gave him an extra gravelly voice, it was just so hard to listen to. But looking back, it's just so hilarious. Like, I can't imagine him without that voice. I just love it. It's weird and a little dumb, but I love it. All right. So, something else that I want to do for the Atoms movement, again, just to make it a little bit more interesting, uh, I want to rotate him a little bit, like tilt him up and down when he moves. Uh, Again, just to make the animation look more varied and interesting. Maybe also kind of make it look like surfboarding motion. Again, just like less plain. Just there we go. So slight tilt down, slight tilt up. Might also maybe make him a little bit faster. Oh my goodness. Computer keeps interrupting me. Sorry about that. Okay. So, very simple motion up and down. And only thing left that I'd want to do, um, see, because when I let go, it stays in a downward tilt or upward tilt, is add some programming. So when he's not moving, it basically uh, rotates the sprite back to um, back to 0 degrees. So yeah, here's what I mean. See, I stop moving. Oh wait, I need to adjust it a little bit. Like I said, a lot of making games is adjusting. I know there's some people are really good with math that could figure it out. Oh wait, okay, there we go. And then I stop moving, and it automatically rotates it back to the starting position, just like that. Okay, so pretty good progress so far. I have the layout for the stage, which is just a simple continuous moving background for my blood cells and for my cell wall. I have the basic animation for our player, for the effects surrounding him. So next time when I'm working on this, I'll work on some of his other animations, like for attacking, for when he shoots the atoms, the particles, and I'll try to also have uh, some obstacles that he could fight in the bloodstream, some maybe some viruses or germs. Actually, if anyone wants to make suggestions or anything like that, uh, you could check out my Twitter at LaddieLegasis and just leave a comment or suggestion. And yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for checking it out. Try to have more progress soon. Thank you and good night.